up a hog's butt for a ham sandwich. This is how I refer to doing things on the internet. Unless you know exactly what you're doing, you cannot limit your searches down to something valid. A very good example of this is flare gun versus flare launcher. If you're not aware of it, there's a video game called PUBG, and many other video games, by the way, include something called a flare gun. Sometimes they correctly call the devices flare launchers, but most of the time they call it flare gun. Now, I want to point out that a flare launcher includes the gun-shaped ones that are called, in normal speech, flare gun, and flare launchers of various types. There's dozens of types, and we're going to look on Twitter for this, aka the hog's butt. Now, I'm limiting this from 2006 to 2017 arbitrarily. The time and date stamps are not relevant, but I'm limiting it to a little over a decade because it was very popular for people to use flare launchers to do other projects like shooting arrows, throwing packages over walls was done, making potato cannons, and they'd had to have them legally designated a flare launcher at one time. Yeah. So anyway, we look down here and we find a listing from the Telegraph. Now, if we hover over the word the space Telegraph, it'll give us a notation that says it's just the word telegraph. Okay. And over in the left, lower left there, you'll see it say twitter.com/telegraph. And in here it says @telegraph. So we need to limit it by using the word telegraph, not the telegraph, unless you want to put it in quotes and get really annoyed by the results. But we can look for everything else that the Telegraph has ever said about a flare launcher. When we do that, we have to do it with the advanced search function, which is done by hitting that button. Or we can type it in by doing since 2006, the date, until, and I'm making it all of the range I felt like last year at about, New Year's, and flare launcher, and I also put in parentheses from :telegraph. Now, if you're not aware of it, up here it has it written out with %3a for colon and a bunch of other things. Now, I'm going to do a little trick here. I'm going to see if it really needs those to be in special characters. But as you can see, it only brought up one story, and that's from last year till the first year you can look up anything from Twitter. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to select all of it, and I'm going to copy all of this. Now, I'm looking for the first instance of the word since, which is right here. So let's grab all of this until we get to the last part where it says telegraph. Okay, so we put that in. I'm inserting it. Now it's completely human readable. It looks exactly like what I have in here, and you can read it easily. Will it let me get away with this? Now, this is a big question. I don't know the answer, neither do you. Now, I want to point out that right after it has ampersand src for source equals typed query, and then an ampersand, and then f equals top. Now, I hit enter. It may or may not work because it doesn't like that I put it in by manually typing it up here. It doesn't like that the character is actually using the colon symbol, or it'll work just fine. In this case, it doesn't give a damn. It wants it to have search function, which means on Twitter we're accessing their computer and running their search program, and then we're giving it the instructions q equals all this stuff. And at the end of it, it wants us to also put in ampersand source typed query f top. Now, you notice there's an ampersand between each of these. Now, I'm going to do a trick. I'm going to add ampersand to the end. Now, I'm going to grab all of this, and I'm going to go to the beginning, and right after the word search, where it says Q, I'm going to put in the other information. And I'm going to get rid of the first ampersand because question mark and ampersand equal the same thing. I'm going to go to the end and hit enter. Will it give us the same result? Yes or no? Now remember, up here, our command line, remember you can treat Twitter's user interface like you can a copy of Windows versus Linux on your computer. Both of them have a command line for doing search. Both of them can be gotten down to what we're going to call the console, which is up here, or the command line, to physically make it do things. But they all take the commands the same way. The only exception is it wants the source, typed query, ampersand, ftop in there. Now you could, if you wanted to, make a version of this that has virtually nothing in it to make it to where you have a command line up here that's shorter and make a make a bookmark. But anyway, it looked it up and it found that the Telegraph only mentioned Flare Launcher once. Now let's just make it Flare. Now we can do this here, or we could do it up at the top here. Either should work, and I'm just going to hit enter in here, see if it does it. Did the Telegraph ever mention flares? Yep, solar flares. Somewhere in here, there's our story from 2015. Here's another one, flare-ups. Somewhere in here will be a story of somebody using a flare gun in a robbery. The point is, you can manually force it to work by using our bare metal section up here where we're ordering it to do things, where we're giving it commands explicitly. We're going to do colon. I'm going to change out all the percent 3A's for colon to prove to me, only to me, that it works. Percent 3A equals a colon. So let's get rid of all of that. And I'm going to hit the enter again. Does it work the same? Now what that tells me is that their website will let you type in a colon, or it'll do it as an escape sequence, converting it to hexadecimal, and it does give you the same result. Now, if we do Flare Launcher, since the first thing we can filter for, all the way up to last year, we get Flare Launchers. Now, I'm doing this as an example of something I might look up, and now I got to look up the TAC 79 over here because it's cool. When you want a website to not filter you, you have to find out how it does this and see if it gives you the cheat of it being in the address bar or command line. Now, I'm going to get to this last part. If you have a computer, or God help you, a cell phone that doesn't let you manually type all this in and then make bookmarks so you can make it easy to edit, you can't get away with this. On YouTube, if I want to look up something on YouTube, sometimes I have to break down and use whatever secret mojo codes they have in order to get through. I don't have a choice. The website's filtering me. They're lying. They're hiding stuff. They mention this, people mention this all over the place where they're talking about using special words to hide what they're doing. You didn't see that. Anyway, $30 pipe shotgun. What kind of idiot would ever discuss that? Flare launcher. Flare launcher? But yeah, oh look, we're going to need them. Some synonyms for whistleblower. Flare launcher. Wow, 2019, Ali Davis had an interesting posting. I guess I should bookmark that. So anyway, if you're trying to find stuff on Twitter, looking up a hog's butt for ham sandwich, and it seems to be filtering you, you need to know what the codes are, and you need to know how to transplant this stuff from here and force it into here. It can filter this up here, maybe, depending on whether you're logged in or not. I am not logged in. But it can't filter it if you force it by literally telling Twitter.com's computer to search and not give it any other information other than when you need. For instance, you can tell, instead of the until, you can get rid of that, and it should bring you every incident from beginning of time for the word flare launcher, just like it should do, right? Well, it won't unless you specify a time and date stamp. Yeah, that's a little pro tip. It'll try to filter it based on your interest. If you indicate you want it to do it based on time and date stamp, it'll spend a long time sorting that and eventually come up with an answer. Or you could quick bookmark it and give it an end time like I did and find all sorts of interesting stuff that you would never be able to locate this ever under any conditions without being able to filter it. So, my words for the rest of the day. If you notice a website's filtering you, learn how it does it, and then override it by going in and typing stuff in a sensible way like that, and just hit enter and force it to do it like you're running a DOS prompt on an old computer where it's not smart enough to argue with you. So this is how to filter out the filters and find stuff. Well, that's cool. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And don't take any wooden realities. And yeah, Twitter's filtering people again this week, of course.